You were never meant to live small or powerless. But the truth, your truth, was hidden in plain sight, buried beneath myths, mistranslations, and fear. From the very beginning, you sensed that something about this world didn't feel right. Deep inside, you knew reality couldn't possibly be as flat and limited as they claimed. And you were right. What if everything you were taught about reality was wrong? What if your thoughts weren't just silent whispers, but the very blueprint of the world around you? For centuries, this secret has been obscured, distorted not because it wasn't real, but because it was too real, too powerful. And at the center of it all was Thoth, god of wisdom, magic, and sacred knowledge. He left behind clues, laws of creation, encoded in ancient texts, meant only for those truly ready to understand. The ancient Egyptians knew it. The Hermetic mystics practiced it. But now you are remembering. You didn't stumble upon this video by chance. It finds you only when you're ready. From the moment you arrived on this earth, you were open, aware, and deeply connected. Before words, before beliefs, before conditioning, you felt something. A subtle pulse, a hidden rhythm beneath the surface of the ordinary. But the programming began early. The veil was drawn. Now, you're starting to see again. If these words awaken something in you, it's not random, it's resonance. Comment, "I hear the signal," to align with the current. And if you feel the pull, subscribe to join others walking the hidden path. They didn't name you, label you, and teach you what to fear out of malice. They did it because they too were shaped by the same unseen architecture. From childhood, you were trained to look outward, to seek truth in authority, identity in reflection, and fulfillment in achievement. You were handed pre-written definitions of love, purpose, failure, and success, and told they were your own. But none of them were born from within you. You were taught to suppress your emotions, to distrust your inner knowing, and to replace your instincts with external instruction. Every system, school, religion, media subtly pushed you to disconnect from the core of who you are. Imagination was demoted to childish fantasy. Intuition was treated as naivety. Ancient wisdom was dismissed as myth or outdated superstition. They didn't give you wisdom. They gave you answers memorized, not understood. They discouraged questions, curiosity, and self-exploration. And most dangerously of all, they convinced you that reality is rigid, that your thoughts are fleeting and irrelevant, that the universe is mechanical, and that you are separate from it. That lie buried the key. The truth: you're not perceiving reality, you're projecting it. And ancient civilizations knew this long before the rise of concrete cities and glowing screens. Thoth, the divine scribe keeper of cosmic law, didn't invent this truth. He remembered it. He preserved it. He etched it into the emerald tablets and encoded it within Hermetic teachings, not as dogma, but as a map. A system not meant to be worshipped, but activated. Not to be followed blindly, but decoded by those who are ready to remember. What if manifestation isn't a new trend, but a forgotten law? What if it's not magic or manipulation, but alignment? What if your thoughts are more than noise? What if they're signals sent into a living, intelligent field that mirrors them back? That's the knowledge they never wanted you to access. Because once you do, you no longer ask for permission, you begin to create. Because if you truly understood how powerful you are, when you're in alignment, you'd be far more difficult to control. You wouldn't chase products to feel worthy. You wouldn't pursue titles to feel seen. And you certainly wouldn't follow rules written by those who've never once asked why your soul chose to incarnate here. You'd stop playing small. You'd stop obeying systems that thrive on your doubt. And you'd remember it is not reality that shapes the mind, it is the mind that bends reality. Some truths are too potent to speak out loud. That's why we've tucked them into the Insights Academy newsletter, a sanctuary for those awakening. When you join, you'll instantly receive a digital copy of the Kybalion, but only while this portal remains open. Why the Kybalion? Because what it whispers is the same truth Thoth wove into the very fabric of creation, a multi-dimensional code of symbols, rhythms, and energy patterns reflecting the divine mind itself. What you've heard called poetry was never metaphor. It was a map, a cipher for those with eyes to see and spirit to decode. But here's the paradox: you won't see the map until the terrain within you shifts. It's not information that can be given, it has to awaken. You might read these words 100 times across 10 lifetimes and still not feel the shift. Because it's not about intellectual knowledge. It's about becoming what the knowledge calls you to be. And only then, the symbols begin to glow. What you are vibrationally tuned to is the most important thing. It is not possible for the ego to influence Thoth's manifestation secret. A want for more things, a desire to win some game, or a desire to avoid doing the labor are all irrelevant to it. When the signal of your inner world becomes obvious, when your thoughts, feelings, actions, and awareness come into harmony with one another, it is then that it shows itself. At this very now, as you listen to these words, it is possible that something within you is beginning to stir. A remembrance that is calm, an instant of recognition flashes. That is not a happenstance at all. Yes, that is resonance. The key is not going to be handed over to you. Activation of it is taking place within you. Never was the programming intended to be permanent. Simply said, it was layered. Additionally, you are able to peel it back layer by layer, thinking after concept, that whatever is left beneath it is something of a divine nature. The ancients had a more profound understanding of something that happened a long time before science gave names to atoms and equations. Something that could be identified without the use of a microscope or a telescope, because it could be known without the necessity for such tools. The idea that the universe was not composed of matter was taught by them. It was conceived in the imagination, in a literal sense, not in a metaphorical sense. Everything that you perceive, everything that you touch, and everything that you think to be real is thought that has been crystallized into some shape. First and foremost, this is the Hermetic principle. All is the mind. Mind is the source of everything. Movement of consciousness is the essence of existence itself. It is impossible for the world to exist apart from you. It manifests itself via you. This is not in some hazy spiritual sense. Rather, it is in the most literal sense that can be imagined. You become the filter through which all of reality is shaped, and everything you believe, feel, expect, and focus on becomes that filter. A generator, not a lens, is what we need. There is more to it than simply interpreting the field. In this way, you are sending messages into it. Instructions are conveyed using those signals. That is what Thoth was aware of. That is the information that he programmed into the ancient books. However, these are not rites of worship, but rather codes for awakening. The poetry on the emerald tablets was not of a rudimentary kind. Whoever was able to read between the lines was the only one who could decipher the encrypted maps. To put it simply, Thoth was not speculating when he said that everything is thought and that the universe is mental. In doing so, he was announcing the basis of existing reality, an underlying structure that contemporary science is only just starting to piece together and find. For example, the observer effect in quantum physics demonstrates that particles do not even behave as solid until they are being observed. There are other examples as well, and if focused awareness is not what observation is, then what is it? Take note. Nevertheless, the system in which you live was not designed to accommodate this reality. To be more precise, it is intended to bury it. In your education, you were instructed to consider your mind to be private, internal, and secluded. An instrument for surviving in a world that is not concerned with your views because it is external. On the other hand, if everything is mind, then your ideas are not private. It is a generative process. They have an effect on the very field of your reality, causing ripples to spread outward. And that field does not pay attention to what you claim to want. Rather, it pays attention to what you resonate with the most frequently. You are unable to fake this. If you are vibrating with a sense of poverty, you cannot bring about abundance. You can't make love if you're afraid of losing anything. Despite your statements, the field does not respond to them. It reacts to the frequency that you use. The concept of frequency is not some new age nonsense. It is the emotional state that you continue to exist in on a daily basis. The reason for this is that the foundation is the principle of mentalism. Because once you realize that idea gives rise to form, everything shifts in a different direction. What you should be doing is asking yourself how you work rather than how the world works. This information was not brought by Thoth with the intention of dominating or dazzle. In light of the fact that the human being was intended to be a producer rather than a consumer, he brought it. That each of us have the same power to create worlds from inside, but only if we remember was something that he was aware of. He realized that we are fractals of the divine mind, sparks of the infinite, that are playing out as people. The reason being that mentalism is not merely a principle. In other words, it is a responsibility. If the mind is the only thing that matters, then you are responsible for what you think, how you feel, and what you broadcast into the world. This responsibility is not one that is filled with guilt and self-blame, but rather one that is freeing. That you are not a victim of chaos is what it means. You are a participant in a cosmic feedback loop in which your inside condition influences the feelings and experiences you have in the outside world. Moreover, this is the point when the mystery starts to become clear. The act of manifesting is not about exerting control over the world. It's about taking control of your own thinking, your own energy, and your own alignment. This is the reason why the teachings of Thoth were concealed. It was not because they were forbidden, but rather because the majority of people were not prepared. It is corrupting to have power without understanding. This kind of power, which is creative, dynamic, and spiritual, calls for a level of desire that is beyond comprehension. Self-awareness, honesty, and presence are all required for it. For this reason, the lessons were concealed, communicated through enigmas, and guarded by symbols. The purpose was not to render them inaccessible, but rather to safeguard them against being misapplied. The expression, "When the student is ready, the teacher appears," is one that you could have heard on occasion. However, in this particular instance, it goes much further. It is only when the frequencies are in harmony that the truth is revealed. This moment is not the beginning of your learning, but rather the beginning of your remembering is what you are experiencing right now. This power has always been uniquely yours. You have simply been under the impression that it is something that is external to you, something that you should pursue, and something that you should earn. Now, however, Thoth did not provide us with a ladder to climb. To gaze into, he provided us with a mirror. You do not have to transform into anything new in order to have access to this reality. You have to let go of the things that you were taught. You need to stop looking for evidence and start paying attention to what resonates with you. Instead of being a container, the mind functions as a projector. And as soon as you begin to use it with that awareness, the entirety of your environment starts to reorganize itself. This is not the question, am I able to manifest? What I need to know is whether or not I am willing to transform into the version of myself that currently exists. Manifestation is not about making your wishes more intense. It is not about reciting lines into a mirror or writing down your desires 100 times on paper in the hopes that the universe would take note of them. This is the commercialized version of an ancient truth that you were sold by the teachings that were presented to you at the surface level. Real manifestation, on the other hand, is not a spell. This is what Thoth encoded and what Hermetic masters preserved. It's a state, yes. You are not manifesting the things that you desire. What you are, the energy that you embody, the emotions that you routinely feel, and the beliefs that you carry just below the surface, are all things that you are attracting to yourself. The following are the components that make up your frequency. Also, frequency is the language that is used in the industry. It is not your words, not the vision board you have. What is the frequency, that vibe that you maintain when no one is looking at you? When you are not actively aligning yourself, but rather when you are truly being in it, this is the one you live in. That is the snare that plenty of people fall into. With a sense of desperation, they attempt to appear. They make the affirmations, but they have the impression that they are frauds. They have a focus on abundance, but their actions are motivated by lack. And after that, they try to figure out why it doesn't work. The truth is uncompromising, yet it is liberating. When you ask for something, the universe does not give it to you. You receive as a result of what you broadcast. If you are tuned to a particular frequency, you cannot outsmart it. However, you can only move it. And this is not what we mean when we say that we think fresh things once or twice. The goal is to completely transform into a different person. However, by remembering rather than by adding, coherence is required for alignment. Your intellect, body, emotions, and soul should all be in harmony with one another. When your thoughts and feelings are in harmony with one another, when your actions are in accordance with what your spirit actually desires, and when your actions are in service of what your spirit is truly seeking, then the field will respond. At this point, the process of manifestation shifts from being an effort to becoming an expression. There is no attempt made by the tree to grow. The light that the sun emits is not compelled. Additionally, when you are in alignment, you should not try to force your reality. You simply allow it to develop. But honesty is necessary for alignment. Honesty without mercy. Stop acting as if your thoughts are unimportant and stop pretending that they are. In order to quit spiritualizing avoidance, you need to stop. You need to let go of the habit of repeating what you've heard and start feeling what is actually true. It is not possible to go around this. There is no bypass. Attributing alignment to the act of slapping positivity over pain is not possible. There is a show there, and there is no correlation between performance and the universe. If you are present, it will react. This is the point at which the old knowledge of Thoth pierces through the mist like a bolt of lightning. There was no emphasis on acquiring more in his teachings. It was about growing into something more. To control reality into giving you what you desire is not the purpose of your presence here. You have come to this place to align yourself with your true nature to such an extent that reality has no choice but to reflect it back to you. That is not a miracle. That's the law. In the same way that it rules breath and time, it also governs cycles and stars. The correspondence principle is the principle. It is the same outside as it is inside. Everything shifts in a different direction once you stop chasing and begin aligning. Your objectives will disappear into your intentions. You will experience clarity when your cravings morph. When you stop treating your life as a battlefield, it transforms into a mirror. Why isn't this occurring for me? You'll cease asking me these questions, and I should begin by asking myself what aspect of myself is not yet in alignment with what I assert I want. The real job is done there. The labor that is unsettling, liberating, and essential. For the simple reason that manifestation is not about doing more. Undoing what causes your signal to be distorted is the goal here. It is not about making more of an effort. What's important is getting rid of the interference. Scared. Doubt exists. It is a shame. A comparison is made. Static is the term here. The transmission is blocked by them. On the channel, they are a nuisance. Moreover, you have been instructed to disregard that in order to diminish those frequencies. On the other hand, to criticize yourself for possessing them. Nevertheless, the old teachings were unambiguous. You are able to portray what you repress. You unknowingly bring into existence whatever it is that you do not cure. Because of this, a lot of people see glimpses of manifestation, but they never experience constancy. It is one thing that they manifest, but it is not the other. The job is theirs, but they do not get the tranquility, the wealth, but not the merit of the individual. That is due to the fact that manifestation is not about calling forth things. It is about being able to receive reflection. There is no reward in the rest of the world. It is a form of feedback. It is not a form of punishment if you feel as though your life is not aligned properly. Yes, that is a mirror, one that is requesting that you take a step back from wishing and begin calibrating. And now the most humbling truth of them all could be said. You consistently exhibit manifestation. It is not possible for you to turn it off. When you are in the creative field, you do not enter and exit it. All of the beliefs, every response taken, with every feeling, it is every judgment. The entirety of it reverberates throughout the field and creates patterns. It is not the question of whether or not manifestation is effective. It is whether or not you are aware of what you are bringing into existence at this very moment. It is not a skill to align things. Becoming is a method of being, a commitment to maintaining coherence, a return to self-honesty that is so potent that it causes the cosmos to begin reflecting the true you at that moment. Not the one who is wearing a mask. They are not the people pleaser. It is not the youngster who has been hurt and is trying to be enough. On the other hand, the divine you that has never stopped existing. These are the manifestations that Thoth was referring to. Not a miracle. We are not manipulating. Recalling. The recollection of a truth that is so old that it predates the invention of language. There is a truth that mutters. There is no need to coerce reality into conforming to your will. You have to get back to being the person you are. It will, in fact. There is a rationale to the assertion that manifestation is a misrepresentation. I don't understand why they do the images, say the affirmations, and keep a notebook, but nothing changes. In addition, there are certain people who appear to be able to bring things into existence without making any effort. Seems to be a case of luck. It seems to be an unjust situation. However, this is not the case. Alignment is the key. I am prepared for it. The most important aspect is the resonance. It was never intended for all people to follow Thoth's teachings. It is not out of a sense of superiority, but rather out of the reality. In the same way that you wouldn't give a child fire without first instructing them on how to avoid getting burned, this information was supposed to be disclosed when the pupil was able to hold it without causing any distortion. This is the reason why there were so many initiations in the ancient world. This is not to guard, but rather to protect. Not in order to exclude, but in order to get ready. If there is no awareness, power will corrupt. And the definition of manifestation in its purest form is nothing less than power. The power to mold matter through the use of one's imagination, to condense possibility into form only through the processes of alignment. The majority of individuals, however, fail to see this. In their approach, manifestation is viewed as a transaction, almost as if the entire universe were a vending machine and intention were the coin. I would like to have this, so I'll concentrate on that. I will try to picture it. To reiterate, I will. However, what is actually being communicated is a paucity of resources beneath the surface. In need of, scared, the attachment. From a place of completeness, they are not manifesting. It is the absence of it that is causing them to appear. And without any hesitation, the field, which is both precise and impartial, reflects that back to the player. That's the reason why so many individuals claim that it doesn't work. Mostly due to the fact that what they are referring to as manifestation is actually manipulation. It has its origins in the desperation of the ego, not in the knowledge of the soul. It is the ego's desire to obtain. The soul has a desire to communicate. In addition, manifestation is merely a reaction to the latter thing. In the event that your desire originates from a place of separation, if it is constructed on the foundation of demonstrating your worth, and if it is concealed in a sense of scarcity, then it is irrelevant how spiritual the language is, but it won't line up. The reason for this is not because you are being punished, but rather because the field cannot be deceived. This is the key to success. You are not being withheld from anyone by the cosmos. You have not been blocked. You have not been damaged. The only thing that is being requested of you is to increase the frequency of what it is that you are requesting. If you want something, the universe will not give it to you. You are able to meet it where you are. This is the reason why Thoth's secret is not some kind of ritual spell or manipulation. There is a change taking place. Because of this, your inner reality will be rewired to the point that your outer world will have no choice but to adopt it. Due to the fact that they do not wish to let go of who they have been, the majority of people are not prepared. In spite of their desire to bring about abundance, they continue to connect with limitations. Although they desire to call in love, they continue to believe that they are not sufficient. They seek to alter their life circumstance without altering who they are as individuals. However, manifestation does not operate in such a manner. What is required is death, the passing away of the fabricated self, the persona, the performance, and the identity that was a product of programming and was never properly yours. The cost is as follows. And that price seems excessively costly to a lot of people. However, for those individuals who are prepared, not just prepared, it is not even a question. There is a comeback. Your manifestation is not failing to occur. The invitation to align is being extended to you. Those feelings of resistance and irritation that you are experiencing are the beginning of the end for your previous frequency. Failure is not the result of friction. It is a form of feedback. There is a reverberation of a self that you are no longer destined to carry. You will continue to manifest more evidence of who you used to be rather than who you truly are, until you shed that version of yourself, the one that is founded on should, shame, and the need to survive. Only when the heart is open and the ego is silent does Thoth's secret become revealed to the individual. This is the reason why this message will only come to you when you are prepared. I am not prepared to acquire something, but I am prepared to become someone. A person who is aware of the fact that the field does not communicate verbally. It is a vibrational language. And identity is the factor that shapes vibration. The one that they provided for you. The one that is hidden beneath all of the clutter. Who is currently waiting to emerge. In that case, have you ever pondered the question, why is it not working for me? Change the question you're asking. When I ask, who am I being, I want to know. Inquire, do I believe that I am distinct from what it is that I am looking for? Or am I prepared to take on that role at this moment? Due to the fact that the truth is both harsh and lovely. You are the only thing that the field reflects, and everything changes when you attain a state of coherence, clarity, and alignment with who you are. The more profound way is this one. It is the true way. Why the secret isn't being yelled from every rooftop in the neighborhood. It is not interested in your intelligence. It is requesting that you give in, not to something other than yourself, but to something that has always been within you. Mostly due to the fact that when it is experienced, manifestation does not feel like magic. It has the charm of a house. You were never merely surrounded by symbols from all sides. They were the ones who molded you. Geometry has always been the language of reality, as seen by the numerous patterns found on ancient temples and the spirals that make up your DNA. This is not art. It's not to decorate. However, language, there is a language that predates words. It is not written in ink, but rather in form. The ancients were aware of this fact. It wasn't just monuments that they constructed. Through the use of stone, they encoded frequency. It was essential to pay attention to every angle, curve, and repeat. And the master architect who was responsible for that much of it, it is Thoth. It is necessary to look beyond affirmations and energies in order to comprehend the most profound aspects of the process of manifestation. Comprehension of structure is required of you. Patterns can be found in the universe since it is not free of randomness. Every atom rotates in accordance with the law. There is a specific order in which every plant develops. Each and every galaxy spirals in accordance with pattern. The principle of correspondence was the name given to this concept by Hermeticists. In the same way as above, so below. It is the same outside as it is inside. However, they were not using metaphors in their speech. In a literal sense, they meant it. An analogy can be drawn between the structure of the universe and the structure of your own mind. You are not the only one who is surrounded by the patterns of creation. You are the source of them. The sacred geometry comes into play at this point. Rather than as a form of mysticism, it is the template for everything, the very essence of life, the germination of life. This is the Merkaba. This is not only a collection of lovely symbols that you would find on yoga mats or tattooed on someone's back. These codes are vibrational in nature, facts derived from mathematics that help to maintain awareness stable, types of forms that have direct interactions with your field. You are not supposed to look at sacred geometry. This strikes a chord with you. This is the reason why you are able to have a feeling when you encounter certain patterns, despite the fact that you cannot comprehend them. The reaction is not coming from your intellect. Your spirit is recollecting the past. The reason that these symbols were incorporated into temple scrolls and rituals was because Thoth, the custodian of wisdom, placed them there. Due to the fact that geometry circumvents the rational mind. This is a direct communication with the subconscious. It sets order out of the chaos. It synchronizes you with the beat of the universe. Temples in ancient Egypt served multiple purposes in addition to being temples. Calibration chambers were what they were. Certain harmonic ratios caused the stones themselves to vibrate. Having to walk through them was not a symbolic act. Indeed, it was alchemical. In the process of leaving one state, you entered another. The ancients revealed themselves in this manner, not merely through words, but also by sensitivity to the surrounding environment. This has been forgotten by contemporary society. This approach views space as a utility. There are square buildings that are fluorescent and unconnected. Efficiency has taken the place of resonance in our system. We have also been out of sync with the deeper field as a result of this particular action. There is still a place for holy geometry. Just recently, it has been buried, concealed in building, communicated via art, and intertwined into stories. The most essential thing is that it is still present within you. According to the Fibonacci sequence, your breath is rhythmic. It is natural for your heartbeat to follow a rhythm. Even the structure of your ideas traces patterns that seem to be a reflection of the architecture of the cosmos. Re-entering coherence is something that happens when you start surrounding yourself with divine forms, whether they are in your mind, your body, or your energy. This is what the manifestation process actually requires. There is a coherence between the structure of your body and the structure of the cosmos. When your inner environment is disorganized, the signal that you send out to the field will experience distortion. However, when your mind, body, and emotions are in harmony with one another, you transform into a vessel for the production of new things. You are neither a swindler or a manipulator, rather you are a mirror. Being a resonator of divine order is what you become. Because of this, some mantras, mandalas, and movement practices have a very potent effect on the practitioner, due to the fact that they are in agreement with ancient geometry rather than because of belief. People tune you out. Also, when you are tuned, the field reacts immediately to your actions. Because you became fundamentally compatible with what you were calling in, rather than because you forced it, you were able to do this. Because of this, Thoth taught through the use of symbols. Words have the ability to deceive. Not even symbols can. A symbol is not simply a representation of reality. They admit it to you. In order to make advantage of this, you do not need to become a mystic or a mathematician. All that is required of you is to begin recognizing the patterns. When it comes to nature, regarding your feelings, where your thoughts are, it is important to pay attention to what occurs repeatedly. There are spirals, what grows and shrinks throughout time, mostly due to the fact that the symmetry of your life is not random. Specifically, it is a reflection of the structure of your awareness. A doorway can be found in every shape that you resonate with. You are taking a step back into alignment with each pattern that you decode. And when you start living in rhythm, not in confusion, not in opposition, but in rhythm, you will see that manifestation is not composed of a single deed. They are in a state of flow, a progression that never stops. In the language of form, a conversation between you and the universe is taking place on this planet. The ancient people who live by this secret live by it, one that contemporary culture has disregarded as a form of symbolic superstition. However, you are present, right now. Remembering the times. This memory is not only a repository of information. Activation is the term. The first step in regaining harmony is just this. Mostly due to the fact that when you connect yourself with the geometry of creation, the universe stops rejecting you and begins producing through you. Without consciousness, there is no such thing as genuine manifestation, not the kind that is on the surface and floats around in the mind like mist. On the other hand, the profound sort, the sort that is piercing. This is the kind of person who can see through illusions with a breathtaking clarity. This is the point at which the journey truly starts. When you begin to ask the universe for more, you will not receive it. However, when you start to question yourself about the reasons why you ever felt disconnected from it in the first place, the teachings of Thoth were not written for a large number of people. To the few individuals who were capable of holding paradox in their hearts, they were murmured. It is impossible for someone to gaze at the material world and notice the mirage. Who would be able to see their suffering and still be aware that they were complete? Because of this, consciousness is the true beginning of the process, mostly due to the fact that it requires the destruction of every false identity that you have ever inherited. Specifically, it is the destruction of the mass. These are the titles, the tales that you clung to in order to feel like you were someone else. And when those are consumed by fire, what is left is a presence that is unfiltered, silent, and potent. This presence is the essence of who you truly are. In other words, it is what existed prior to the programming, before they helped you figure out who you are, what to be afraid of, also the way to think. It has been ingrained in you to believe that awareness is a passive state. This is nothing more than observation. However, this is not the case. Real awareness is a state of being. It has a catalytic effect. As soon as it is honest, it starts to rewrite you about yourself. When you stop avoiding your shadows and begin to look at them without passing judgment on them, that is the moment you will have achieved acceptance. The ancients were aware that the fruit was in fact the manifestation. It was awareness that planted the seed. There is no number of vision boards that can improve your life if your field is congested with unresolved emotions, tales that you haven't told yourself, or trauma that you inherited from your family. Those cluttered areas vibrate. This is a broadcast, and the entire cosmos is paying attention. Because of this, the majority of manifestations are unsuccessful. It is not because the procedure is flawed, rather it is because the signal is jumbled into pieces. In front of the field, you cannot lie. It is not possible to circumvent your own frequency. On account of this, the path of the initiate was never considered to be glamorous. The fact that it freed you from the delusions to which you had become enslaved made it an initiatory experience. It is not possible for you to advance in strength while maintaining your comfort. In order to embrace truth and retain your false self, you are not allowed to do so. Through a series of stages, the secret is revealed. Additionally, each stage necessitates a more profound level of honesty, not with other people. Your own self-care. Consider the question, who am I going to become when I stop performing? In an effort to conform to the norm, what aspects of my personality have been repressed under the pressure of surviving? What truths have I buried deep within myself? These questions are not trivial in nature. There are holy passageways there, because the things that you repress do not vanish over time. You are under its control from the shadows. In addition, manifestation, that is the result of repression, merely results in additional distortion. Initiation is the term used here, with the eyes of someone who is finally ready to see rather than with shame or pity, but with the eyes of someone who is looking at themselves. The concept of awareness is not a fact. As a force, it is. The process by which unconscious creation is transformed into deliberate production is caused by it. Once you become conscious of your beliefs, you will notice that they start to change. You can start to feel more at ease with your feelings when you bring awareness to them. Your behaviors will start to match with your intentions once you bring awareness to them. When this alignment is achieved, the process of manifestation becomes effortless. The reason for this is not that life has suddenly become simpler, but rather that you are no longer resisting. The outside world is beyond your ability to control. On the other hand, it is possible to develop such a profound awareness of your interior world that the exterior world starts to match it regardless. The paradox of power can be put like this: the less you pursue, the more people you will attract. The less you try to achieve control, the more influence you will have. Due to the fact that awareness attracts, this makes your signal more clear. It makes your field more precise. To put it another way, it transforms your life from a chaotic assortment of reactions into a purposeful flow of production. In addition, if you are reading this, if you are hearing these things, and if something within you is breaking open, then you are already in it. The realization is coming into focus. The starting process has started. It is not because someone gave you permission. Rather, it is because your soul has given you permission. In order to be recognized, you do not require robes or rites. Just remember to keep your eyes open, to maintain the preference for presence over programming. Truth should take precedence above comfort. Prioritize depth above disruption. Indeed, that is the true secret, the one from the past. It was not through dogma that Thoth transmitted his knowledge. Rather, it was through vibration. The ritual consists of awareness. There is a portal here. This is the evidence. Moreover, once you have passed through it, there is no turning back. You will only sink deeper. When it comes to what your soul already contains, you were never intended to ask for it. But you have been conditioned to behave in that manner by the world, to actively search for validation, to work toward achieving worth, to win someone's affection through one's act, while carrying chains to pursue freedom in a manner that no one else could see one. You have been instructed at some point in your life that power is something that is external to you. The belief that it is the property of other individuals, institutions, titles, or systems. Moreover, you gave away yours because you felt that to be true. Little by little, in order, in a low voice, quite subtly, time and again. On the other hand, you have always had a gut feeling that something was wrong with that. It was a feeling that you experienced in the void that followed each external achievement. It is the dull anguish that lies beneath every achievement that did not offer the peace that you had anticipated it would bring. That is not unsuccessful. This is your soul's way of saying no to the untruth, mostly due to the fact that power is not earned. Indeed, it is recalled. The pursuit of manifestation is not something that you should do. It is something that you will be able to access once you stop acting as if you have no power. Never in your life did Thoth ask you to believe in magic. He requested that you keep in mind your divine nature, must avoid perceiving humility as synonymous with self-erasure. The act of shrinking is not sacred in any particular way. Your decision to reduce the intensity of your light in order to maintain social acceptance is not enlightened. If the field reacts to your frequency, and your frequency is formed by your view of yourself, then every time you devalue yourself, you are doing something that causes your signal to become distorted. This distortion is reflected in the universe not as a form of punishment, but rather as a form of feedback. So many people get the impression that manifestation is impossible because of this. They are not broken. Rather, they are expressing from an identity that was never theirs. This is the reason for their existence. An identity that was established as a result of traumatic experiences, indoctrination, and the gradual and prolonged forgetting of who they truly are. It is impossible to assert that you have the best timeline while also identifying with the worst story. When you unknowingly believe that you are deserving of being held captive, it is impossible to create freedom. People are unable to move forward because of this belief, which is buried deep within their subconscious. The secret that Thoth was referring to was not about getting control of the entire globe. Remembering that the world is reacting to you was the focus of this conversation. This is to your frequency. You are the core, your inner structure and planning. The instant you stop performing and begin aligning, that is the time when things start to go in the right direction. The reason for this is not that you coerce them, but rather that you finally stop fighting against what is already yours. There is no way that you were born to live a life of permission, to create, to express, and to embody the divine spark that pulses in your every breath. You were born with the purpose of doing so. Evidence is not required for the soul. It is in need of space, a place to express oneself, for your memory to radiate forth. You will come to the realization that you have never been wanting when you give it the room it deserves, when you take away the noise, the programming and the layers of false identity. You had multiple layers. In the bag, unremembered, it is not lost. For this reason, the true manifestation is not about acquiring additional opportunities. It's about growing into something more, not more to other people. According to the opinions of the world, not more. However, you should focus more on yourself, who you truly are, the version of you that does not water down the facts in order to gain favor. This is the kind that does not feel guilty about being overly powerful, the version that does not make any apologies for being completely present. There are forces that would gain from you remaining on the smaller side, so make no mistake about that, because you have doubts about yourself. As a result of your confusion between obedience and worthiness, they only succeed when you fail to remember them. Whenever you give credence to the myth that your aspirations are too lofty, your perception is far too peculiar, your voice is audibly loud, but this is not a place where you are supposed to feel at ease. In order to remember you were brought here, in order to awaken, to restore the temple that exists within your being. Illusion via illusion, every syllable in turn, choosing one's own path. The blueprint is already in your possession, that is ingrained in your very being, written into the air you breathe, spoken through the medium of your intuition. More time is not required for you. You do not require any more credentials. You are in need of one thing. Stop requesting permission to be who you already are and just be yourself. Simply because the universe does not react to the potential that you possess, your presence creates a response from it, not the version of yourself that you are attempting to become. On the other hand, the person you become after you stop concealing, it is that version, it is that frequency. Because of this, the life that is waiting for you is calling out to you. It is because of this that the field is bent. It is not because you made an effort, the reason being that you matched it. You have never been disconnected from the power that you are looking for. Simply put, you have disengaged from the part of yourself that is capable of wielding it. And now, one by one, breath by breath, you are remembering everything that has happened. You are repositioning yourself. Moreover, that is not a trivial matter. That is the entirety of it. The longer you travel along this route, the more you start to realize that the secret is not about changing into a different person. This is about going back to the way things have always been. It is at this point that the illusion of manifestation is broken down into its fundamental components. Truth be told, there is nothing that can be called upon, nothing to pull you in your direction. This is what you want, for what you are striving. It is already there that you are pursuing. not in some far-off future, but at a time that is parallel to the present. Alignment is the only thing that stands between you and it, the gap. There was no attempt. This is alignment. The concept of manifestation as a means of influencing reality was never taught by Thoth. A mirror was revealed to him by him, a spiritual method of re-establishing connections. In addition, the more you go into it, the more it becomes apparent. Achieving your goals is not the focus of the manifestation process. In other words, it is about dismantling the delusion that you are apart from it. It is not possible to operate the field on demand. Through introspection, it functions. Neither pleading nor negotiating will elicit a response from it. When it is present, it reacts. Exactly who are you at this very moment, which is not what you are doing. What you are thinking is not correct. That being said, who are you? Simply because this is the most important secret. Whatever it is that you are looking for, you already possess. The quantity of it, the tranquility, it is quite clear. This is love. Every single thing is included within the version of you that is able to recall the truth. The person is aware that they are not merely a guest in this planet, but rather an extension of it. Instead of being a pawn in the game of circumstance, you are a player in the larger unfolding. The return to source is being made here, in the sense of a frequency rather than as a destination. A state in which one is so in tune with the truth that delusion can no longer maintain its illusionary form. This is the destination of every Hermetic principle. All is the mind. It is the same outside as it is inside. In the same way as above, so below. The answers to these puzzles were not to be found. Instructions were what they were. It served as a constant reminder that you are not actually living in the universe. In the form of a human being, you are the cosmos expressing itself. There is no separation between you and the laws. Within the system, you are not an outsider. You constitute the system. And once you have embodied that not only intellectually but also vibrationally, the nature of reality will transform around you. It is not because you are trying to force it, but rather because you connect with it at last. Ironically, the majority of people attempt to ignore themselves by using manifestation as a means of escape, to flee from a painful situation, the act of avoiding the inner labor by concentrating on the external benefit. Nevertheless, the opposite is required for true manifestation. It is necessary to be present, honesty of the highest order, the willingness to confront every facet of one's own personality. It is not limited to the refined and spiritual one. However, the shadow, the wound up, the desire to be, it is the fury. Mainly due to the fact that you will only be able to send out a coherent signal if all of your components have been recognized, acknowledged, and embraced. Furthermore, the only thing that responds to is coherence, not perfection. Because of this, a great deal of old wisdom is conveyed through contradiction. Why is it that the mind is incapable of comprehending what the soul already knows? This is how you receive by letting go of things. It is through that stillness that you move. The way to gain access to power is via surrender. Trying to think your way into the life you want is not going to work. All you have to do is transform into the version of yourself that already lives it. And the process of becoming is not about adding. In this case, subtraction is key. Getting rid of anything that was never truly you in the first place, to the point that only the essence is left. Essentially, there is no need to beg for anything. There is no evidence. There will be no pursuit. To clarify things, only the truth. It is only resonance. And from that vantage point, things start to unfold without any external influence. The proper individuals come into your life. Some of the best ideas emerge. It is the proper opportunities that occur. Nevertheless, you do not cling to them. Since you have gone back to the original source, also the source does not cling. It is fluid. It grows wider. It does not create in order to possess, but rather to express. You as an extension of that source are at this location to carry out the same function. Control is not to be concerned with manifestation. You are not attempting to force the world to conform to your will. It is important to keep in mind that when your will is in harmony with your soul, it is already flowing in the same direction as the larger plan. You do not need to make an effort to change something that is already ingrained in the very fabric of your being. The only thing that has to be done is to get rid of the noise, realign the signal, and make room for the divine that is already there inside you to manifest itself throughout time and space. Please take a moment to sit and listen if you have been pursuing, struggling, and trying to make everything happen. It was not to the world, but rather to the silence that lay beneath it. To be honest, that is where the actual power is, without any sound, to tell the truth. While keeping in mind that you have always been in possession of the key, you simply failed to remember that you were held it. Beginning with you, the process of remembering does not finish with you. In conclusion, that is the illusion. This awakening is a private experience, that your journey of manifestation, alignment, and inner power is something that you should keep to yourself to appreciate in solitude while the rest of the world continues to sleep. That, however, was never the purpose at all. At the very moment that you become aware of who you are presented with responsibilities. Not as a burden, but rather as a necessity, to not preach, but to embody the message, simply because presence is the most effective method of instruction. Moreover, the most influential transmission is the way in which you live. You are not simply here to bring things into existence. It is your purpose to bring about light, to develop into a living template that illustrates what alignment must look like. In order for other people to start becoming more awakened in your presence, even if they do not know why. It is not because of the things you say, but rather because the energy you exude brings to memory something that they have forgotten about themselves. This is the ripple effect. The real job is done there. The goal is not to make the world a better place. Rather, it is to become so truthful, so in tune with yourself, and so complete inside yourself that your sheer existence makes room for others to flourish. It won't be necessary for you to persuade anyone. You won't be required to provide evidence of what you already know. There is no language that can compare to the fields. At the same time, when your frequency is unmistakable, it speaks for you. People will begin to sense something in your vicinity. It is planned to sketch some. Some people will put up a fight. That is all right. It is not your purpose to be liked here. This is where you come to get aligned. That is the objective. Instead of leading other people, you should lead yourself. To such an extent and without any remorse that it motivates others to follow in your footsteps. Thoth didn't ever take the spotlight for himself. He was not in need of it. His teachings never addressed the concept of ego. It was all about the fundamentals. He was confident that those individuals who were prepared would discover the message. By resonance rather than through the use of force, similar to how you discovered this. Moreover, you are currently holding it in the form of a vibration rather than as knowledge. One state of being. A signal is represented by that vibration. As you continue to live it more, others will be able to receive it. So what is the next step? As you continue to align, continue to clear the way. Over and over again, you prioritize presence over performance. Truth should take precedence above comfort. Connection is more important than control. With purpose, you live your life. The way you speak is quite clear. When you feel the urge to, you rest. Whenever the spark passes through you, you are able to create. You are no longer waiting for authorization. You quit making an effort to be comprehended. First, you begin to be. The more you do, the more life begins to react to you. Your expectations may not always be met, but you will always receive exactly what you require. A route is beginning to take shape as a result of the timing, the teachings, the allies, and the initiations themselves. One that was not crafted for you, but rather by you. And then you realize you were never an outsider looking in. You were always at the center, creating your own vortex, guiding your growth from within. If you've come this far and haven't subscribed to Hidden Teachings, you've missed more than you think. While the Kybalion is still available, you can get a digital copy for free. Not because the secret is hidden, but because it's waiting for your readiness, your presence, your consent. It's in your hands now. Walk gently into it. You don't have to shout, you just have to be clear. A single soul resonates louder than 1,000 voices shouting in chaos. The goal was never to wake the world, it was to stop putting yourself back to sleep. And that in itself changes everything. New realities aren't forced into existence, they're adjusted. Not through control, but through clarity. You become the source, not the seeker, the organizer, not the follower. And in that quiet radiance, you give others silent permission to do the same, not by telling them what is possible, but by becoming it. The forgotten era is closing. The ancient rules are stirring. The sacred patterns are re-emerging. And if you are still here, still listening, still resonating, then you are not just a witness. You are part of this awakening. The next step, it doesn't come tomorrow. It doesn't wait until you're ready. It's here, now, because you are ready. If this video speaks to your soul, let us know by commenting below. That spoke to me. It's not just a comment, it's a signal, a ripple.